tonight we're going to learn about body language and how to use body language to communicate more effectively. To do this, I'm going to do a little bit of a social experiment. So it's the first time I'm doing this experiment, so I hope you all participate and give me good feedback later on. So this experiment was done by a man called Alan Pease for a TEDx. So I've pretty much stolen his idea and I've made it my own. This is now called the Nyakanyanga theorem. I'm going to try and illustrate the effectiveness of body language through 3 examples of how I use my hands. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to ask you to say yes or no. I'm going to ask you for a feeling later on, and I'm going to ask you how you felt about what I asked you to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask all of the people sitting over here to move and sit this side, and everybody sitting on this side to just move over and sit here, and everybody at the back, please just move over to the front. You don't have to move. But how did that make you feel? Did you feel okay with moving?
I'm eating.
She didn't feel it, but everybody else, do you feel okay with moving? Yeah. Right?
I thought you'd gone mad.
Let me try another approach. I'm going to try to use the exact same words, and you tell me how you feel about it. All the people on this side, can you please move to this side? And everybody on this side of the table, please move that side. And those at the back, please come forward and sit over here. How do you feel about that? A third attempt. All of the people who are sitting over here, move there. And all of you guys, just move this side. And you, and you, please move here and sit over here. How did you feel about that one? You see, right there is the difference body language can make to what you're trying to communicate to people. The first example, I used open palms. And open palms is an indication that I am open to talk, I'm soft, this is a vulnerable space. And generally people respond better to open palms, which is why the first command, you felt a bit more, you're okay with moving, except for you. And days before I was mad. The second one, generally people feel a bit more, when you show the back of your hands, people do feel a bit more, they question, what do you want me to do? Why should I do that? He's mad. The third one is the worst. I'm saying, you stupid idiot, why are you sitting over there? Move over there, you sit here, move over there. Okay? So, pretty much that's the effect body language has on communication. Mr. Toastmaster, before he stole my thunder, mentioned that only 7% of communication is verbal and the rest is non-verbal. So tonight we're going to go through some of the non-verbal aspects of communication. When it comes to body language, there are 3 main types of body language. There is facial expressions, there is hand gestures, and then there is body movement. Hand gestures speak to the hands and body movement speaks to below the waist. When it comes to facial expressions, imagine I came and told you a story. This past weekend, my dog died. Do you believe that?
No.
What's your response to that? Do you say, yay! Finally! Or do you say, oh, that's the importance of facial expressions. Facial expressions come from within, and sometimes if you don't control them, you will reflect exactly what you feel like on the inside, even though you're saying something else different. So sometimes you might go and give a speech at work. You might say all the right words, but because you're nervous, it shows on your face. Your eyes are red, your pupils dilate, and you convey this energy, this negative energy of nervousness. All right? Another aspect of facial expressions is eye contact. Cultures differ, but in Western culture, eye contact means that you're being sincere, you're being honest, because they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. Right? So, if you don't want me to look at your eyes, what are you hiding? That's the key message with the eyes. But it differs from culture to culture. Last week we heard that an African lady in their culture, or in our culture, in their culture, she says that she feels uncomfortable at work because she understands that eye contact is important, but because she's an African lady, eye contact is disrespectful. You don't look at other men in the eye. And then she struggles when she gets back home, because back home she can't look her uncles in the eye. She has to be polite and respectful and inside. So it is important. Eye contact is important. So you need to kind of judge with your situation, whether it's an African home or Western society, what you can do with eye contact. And the question that's been asked before is, how long do you maintain eye contact? Inappropriate, right? They say that about 3 seconds, if you've got an audience such as this, 3 seconds per person, or per sentence. For each sentence you focus on one person, so that this person really feels like you're talking to them. So you can either do a paragraph, or depending on how large the group is, a sentence, but just don't stare too much. And some of the things you can notice when looking into some people's eyes is that generally when someone is lying, for example, their pupils dilate. That is something you might notice from looking in the eyes when you're speaking to a car salesman. So you say, this car is 100,000 Ks. Yes, pupils dilate. This obviously takes a lot more experience as you go along to see this kind of facial expressions and whatnot. But this is part, nostrils flaring, lips trembling. If your lips are trembling, I think it's a bigger problem. But this is all part of facial expressions. Okay? Something else we'd like to then consider is hand gestures. What are your hands doing? A lot of people, myself included, maybe that's why I say the Africans, because I think I speak like an Italian. I do this a lot. You know? Yeah, maybe not. But you saw what hand gestures did earlier on when I did this. Right? It had a negative effect on this audience. But if you're the boss and people have done something wrong at work, you might want to use this one. Alright? There are different types of gestures. There are certain gestures that, I have to look up this word, conventional, yeah, that word. And conventional gestures are things like, stop, in the name of love, no. Or, 2 nights ago, I went home. So it's gestures that show meaning in them, in the actual gesture, stop, let's go, a river flows. And then you've got emotional gestures. Sipo. You know what's going to happen to Sipo, Or even you've seen political figures. Amandla! Which means together, it's a strong fist. I don't know. Another example. Heil Hitler. Not good, right? Imagine if Hitler had done this. Heil Hitler. I think World War II would have ended much quicker. The Gestapo went around like, hey. But this just speaks to the power of gestures. So we've got descriptive gestures as well that describe things. For instance, a flowing river. Or, who can tell me what this is? You can see it's a Coca-Cola bottle. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
How did you see a Coca-Cola?
They say, and this is not scientific or fact, but I've heard this, that the shape of the original Coca-Cola bottle, which was this, was based on the shape or form of woman, which is why it's more appealing to people to get the bottle and drink it and whatnot. But that's off the beaten track. But those are the different types of gestures you can get. There's the conventional gestures, to, stop. There's the descriptive gestures, you, and certain fingers mean certain things. As well as emotional gestures. Angry, you can say, I'm going to. You know what this is. Right? The next thing we're going to look at is your body movement, and that's speaking to the lower part of your body. So now, if I came up here and started saying, guys, I'm a very experienced Toastmaster. I've been to every club. So you should listen to me right now because I'm telling you the exact truth. What does that feel like? Does it feel comfortable? But if I say, tonight, guys, we are going to be speaking about body movement, gestures, and how you can use that to enhance your speech. How does that feel? Okay? When you are moving your legs, sometimes you're fidgeting. Alright? It shows instability. People don't trust you because, remember, at the end of the day, evolution says that we're monkeys. That's evolution. We're not here to argue creation and evolution. But it says that we're monkeys. And monkeys look out for sudden movements because it's always dangerous. Right? If you're a monkey in a tree swinging heavy banana and something just went, your reaction is to run. That's the same reason why you don't do sudden gestures. That, because you should be like, oh, what's going on? But who else does this? Who is this?
Cross mom.
Who?
Cross mother.
Cross mother.
Cross mom.
Cross bum.
When your mom is angry, then she does.
True, that could be one. Yeah, cross mother, that's a nice one. But because it's similar to, this is the Superman. Exactly. And what does the Superman say? I am stable. I am here to stay. I am here to command authority and tell you guys what to do. You don't see Superman saying, I'm here, Lex Luthor. It's stable, legs shoulder width apart, just to show that you're grounded. It's a pyramid shape, triangle shape. So this is just important. So when you're speaking at work, try not to fidget with the lower part of your body. Some people forget, or maybe they walk around, or they do sitting ticks. And when you stand still and firm and solid, it really helps to calm the nerves and also that energy. Remember when we're talking about body language, right? People mimic the body language that you portray. Okay, so if you have this negative energy stuck in you and your body language is all fidgety, the audience is going to be fidgety. And then that's going to distract from your message. If you've got hand gestures that are random, people will be looking at your gestures and not really paying attention to your message. You need to have gestures that are purposeful, well thought out, and meaningful. At the end of the day, we are Toastmasters. The objective is to learn how to control all of these elements to help us to communicate better. Mr. Tinai mentioned earlier on that Sipa, I'm going to pick on him again, used to have, when the first speech he had a pen and he did this while he was giving him a speech, and he didn't do that today. Because when he did this the first time, we all noticed, and we were wondering, is it what? What kind of pen is that? Is that a pen, pencil? Then you get distracted, but maybe the speech wasn't as exciting, but now you want something to distract you to think about. So let's try and use some of these elements to make better speeches. Another thing that I'm going to talk about is the stage, or your speaking area, okay? When you're at work and you're giving a presentation, best to stand to this is your left, right? Because as people, we read from left to right, so if you're giving a presentation on a projector, stand to the left so that people look at you, then they look at the projector. Look at you, look at the projector. And obviously don't stand in front of the projector and move around and do this kind of things, especially when you're giving a presentation. Just stand. If you've got a clicker, don't click, 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 click. Just don't play around. Do this still. Click, next slide, click, next slide. Okay? Another thing, I actually learned this yesterday. When you move back, how do you guys feel? Yeah? Right? Like I'm speaking and you guys listen to my message, but when I was here, how did that feel? Like, we're together. This is our struggle. So just remember that. When you stand, if you stand closer, people feel like we are all together and the eye contact is easier. Whereas if you create too much distance on the stage, you get disconnected from your audience. But all these things I'm talking about, they can be a positive or a negative. It all depends on the scenario. You might want to give a speech where you start off at the back to create distance, but as you move forward, for instance, you're giving a pitch about a brand new product, when it's time to close the deal to make that sale, then the person feels, oh wow, it's attention, what time is it now to buy? So, in a nutshell, that is how you use body language to convey the 93% of communication. You use your facial expressions, eye contact, you use hand gestures, as Mr. Toastmaster mentioned. You can, let's say, left, right, and use that to describe the side, and the rest of your body counts as well. Any questions?
It's not a question. Next time someone mentions that trick thing, please also mention it was my sissy one.
Okay, yes. it means we like you. It's a term of endearment.
It was his sissy one.
Yes.
Context.
Anybody else?
Yes. What about your hands when you're speaking? You just keep them on the side and you put your hand in the pocket?
Great question, because I probably should have started with that. So if it's maybe your kind of first time speaking before you get, I'm pretty, not comfortable, but I've gotten accustomed to the fact that I speak like this, so I tone it down, I want to convey a certain message. But generally put them to the side, and then you speak, and then when you want to use a certain gesture, then you bring it up, and you bring it up to the top, don't bring it here. Don't say 2 weeks ago. Bring it up here so you can see, and it means something. And then you put it back here. It adds more impact to your gestures actually if you keep them to the side here, because people will pay attention to you, your face, and then when you do this, then they're like, oh, then it actually means something. Whereas if you keep on just doing it all the time, then you lose purpose. So when you're beginning, maybe just put them to the side. It feels uncomfortable at first, but to us watching, we don't actually notice anything. I could have done the whole thing like this, and you notice. And just remember open palms. Anybody else? Oh yes. Okay, your question first.
I want my sister one again.
Yeah.
The one thing I struggled with, especially with my speech now, the use of the stage.
Yeah.
I understand that you will need to use the stage from transcending from one concept to the other.
Yeah.
Then you shift.
Yeah.
And also, if you're trying to emphasize your movement in your story
Yeah.
from one place. I heard someone saying that you should almost place, maybe in my story I would have placed Congo over there.
Yeah.
Then I could have placed Joburg over here. Can you
Correct.
explain that? I'm not
So,
really...
Again, the audience remembers the stage based on what you say. So if your mother was, I don't want to give you an example if you're speaking, I was going to say if your mother was beating you over here, and then that's not a good. So if Tunu was here, right, then you told us about Tunu, the audience now imagines home is here. Right? It's just a human thing. We now imagine home is here. Now if you talk about home and Tunu here, and then you move to Joburg, and you start talking about work, and you're still at home, it's implied, right? But you could talk about Tunu here, where you're from, right? And your journey to Johannesburg, and then here now you're at Joburg, you're working and all these things. And in your speech, when you talk about home, you can move back here. So that the audience can picture home, this is home, and this is Johannesburg where you moved, and it just adds an extra bit of, it's non-verbal communication, that extra bit of information to the audience, right? Another thing is that when you're telling your story, if it's in chronological order, you can start by here. 20 years ago, or 5 years ago, I had hair, right?
Only 5?
And okay, so 20 years ago, I had hair. And then my hair started to fall off, and I struggled. I was using too much lotion, now I had to go all this way here. Today, I'm bald. It's chronological. The audience can see the timeline. There was 5 years ago, afro, struggle, handsome. So it's like that. So it takes time, and so just make sure you use the stage appropriately. As long as you set it, it can be time, again, space, or location. And to speak to, my time is up. One final thought. Clasped hands. Don't do this. because this chain, remember we spoke about the back of the hands, right? Open palms are better. When you do this, it's closed palms and you're closing off this part of your body. This means that, I don't trust you guys, you might attack me, so I need to protect myself, okay? And humans, we pick up on that again, we're monkeys, right? But if you open up like this, it means, I trust you, you should trust me too, I don't think you're gonna attack me, I don't think you're gonna do anything nasty to my vital organs, so let's communicate. And yeah, so that's the end of my...
Thank you, Christian. I'd like to just mention that Christian is